A very good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Kanu Priya, Assistant Professor, IIMT College of Engineering, Greater Noida, MBA Department. Today, I am about to give a guest online lecture on the topic of administrative management. Before we move towards the topic of administrative management, which was given by an expert, Henry Fayol, I would like to discuss about what management is all about. So before understanding and going into details of administrative management, let me give you a brief idea regarding what is management. Management is basically the art of getting things done from others. It is a very traditional definition of management which actually explains that management is all about how efficiently a manager is capable of getting all the tasks done in a skilled manner by his staffs or employees. There were a number of experts who gave different theories about management. Henry Fayol was one of those experts who gave an definition or approach of management about the administrative management. Mr. Henry Fayol, his contribution towards management was from 1941 to 1925. He was a French mining engineer who turned a leading industrialist and a successful manager. He was a mining engineer in a French mining company and rose to the position of chief managing director. He recommended 14 general principles of management. Henry Fayol basically gave different principles of management which we could apply in the daily life of a manager, and he could use those 14 principles to make his task easier. If a manager follows these 14 principles efficiently, the task will be done properly and it will be very convenient to manage all the employees. So, the basic 14 principles of Henry Fayol were as follows. As we can see on the slide, I have mentioned all the 14 principles which Henry Fayol gave in his theory of administrative management. The first principle is of division of labor. Second is authority and responsibility. Third is discipline. Next is unity of command. Then it is about unity of direction, subordinate of individual interest, remuneration, centralization, scalar chain, order, equity, stability of tenure of staffs, initiative, and spirit de corps. So the above mentioned 14 points are the 14 principles which Mr. Henry Fayol gave and suggested that if these 14 principles were used and applied in the daily management activities, the tasks would be done in a proper manner. Now, I will move forward and discuss each of these 14 principles one by one. So, our first principle is division of labor or division of work. Leading to specialization results in increased human efficiency as they, through an application of this principle, much more production is possible with the same amount of human effort. So as we can see, that division of labor or division of work is basically dividing the task into smaller segments and appointing people who are efficient in those tasks. The people who are good enough to perform a certain task, then they can use this principle to improve their productivity and to manage time. If the work is divided into smaller sections, every individual will be responsible for his task and every individual will be aware that what part of the work he is supposed to do. Once he is aware of the exact task, his efficiency will gradually improve and he will give his 100% output in that task. So division of labor is a very basic and very important principle that must be applied. Division of work not only improves production but efficiency, and all the tasks are done at a proper time. Next is authority and responsibility. So the next principle that Henry Fayol gave was about authority and responsibility. First, we will discuss what is authority. Authority is the power to the management which enables manager to command subordinates, whereas to the reverse of authority is responsibility. Responsibility is the reverse of authority, which means the essence is an obligation owned by a subordinate to the superior for the proper performance of the job with an authority is granted to the former. This basically means that in order to get a work done, an individual must have the required authority. The authority gives him the power to command his subordinate and give his orders and instructions in a clear cut manner. With authority comes responsibility. Once a person has been assigned a task by his senior, he directly becomes responsible for the task. He is obligated to perform the task in an efficient manner. So, by understanding or having a clear cut definition of authority and responsibility, every individual in an organization is aware that what are his authorities and what are his responsibilities and for what task he is obligated. There, by this, there won't be any confusion or any problem in the organization, and all the tasks will be done in a very smooth manner. The chances of conflicts will also minimize if there is a clear cut understanding of authority and responsibility. The next principle that we are about to discuss is discipline. Discipline is a very important and the essence of management. As we all know, if we need to perform a task or if we need to excel in any field, we need to be disciplined. There are certain norms, there are certain rules, and we need to follow them with a certain disciplinary manner. Discipline is basically the obedience to the rules of the organization on the part of both manager and subordinate, including outward marks of respect shown by subordinates towards superior. So, discipline is basically the essence or the obedience that an individual or that a subordinate must have towards all the tasks or duties assigned to him. Discipline is not only about performing the task, but about coming to the organization on time, about respecting your senior, respecting the resources of organization, minimizing the wastage. There are a number of fields where discipline has to be applied so that the management can function properly and an organization can run in a very smooth manner. So discipline is a very crucial function of management and it must be applied in all aspects of an organization. Next function that comes is unity of command. Unity of command basically means a subordinate must get orders and instructions from one superior at a time. So, this definition or this principle basically explains that if there is a subordinate or an employer, there must be one boss who is giving him orders and instructions about the task that is to be performed. If, for example, a subordinate is receiving multiple orders and instructions from all sorts of managers from all different departments, it is very obvious that the person or the employee will get confused and will be burdened by the task. So it is very important for the in an organization that one subordinate must receive orders and instructions from one superior and he must be responsible or obligated to report to that superior so that there is no confusion about whose orders and instructions are to be followed. So basically unity of command means one boss, one command. There must be one boss for one individual and he must follow his orders or his commands properly. principle is unity of direction. By unity of direction, it implies that for each group of activity having the same objective, there must be one head and one plan, or similar activities must be guided in a similar way. As we can see from this word, unity of direction, this basically means that the direction or the path in which the task is being performed, that must be properly defined, and there must be one direction in which all the plans are to be headed. Every organization sets its goals prior to performing all the activities. So the goals must be clear, and the superiors or the employees must make sure that all the activities of the organization are being performed in such a way that the unity of direction is followed. All the activities are done in such a way that the goal which an organization has set up, that must be achieved. So basically, unity of direction means that all the activities, all the resources, all the plans that are being done, or all the tasks that is being performed in an organization, that must be directed towards a single goal. If there are multiple goals, then that should also be made clear that all the activities must be performed in a similar way. It must not be that in one department every employee or every person is performing his activity in his own manner. So there must be a direction, a unity of direction, a single direction that must be given to all the employees, so that all the tasks and all the resources are utilized in the best possible manner to achieve the specified goals of an organization. The next principle given by Mr. Henry Fayol was subordinate of individual to general interest. This is a very important principle, which means that the individual objective of people are subordinate to the common group objective. This basically means that in an organization, employee must not work to achieve or fulfill his personal needs or his personal goals. If there are certain goals that he wants to achieve, he must make sure that those goals are in a way directly or indirectly connected, or are in such a way directed so that the overall goal of the organization is achieved. We must subordinate, or we must sacrifice our individual interest so that the general interest of the organization must be achieved. Basically, this means that we must not have a selfish approach towards performing our task. We must not think that the work being done is just for ourselves. We must have an approach that all the tasks that we are doing, they are towards achieving the overall objective of the organization. So we must subordinate, or we must let go our individual interest, and we all as an employee must work towards the general interest of the organization, which may lead to the betterment of the organization or the growth of the organization. The next is remuneration of personnel. This is the seventh principle of Henry Fayol. It is the price paid or payable to managers and workers for their service rendered towards the attainment of enterprise objective, and it must afford maximum satisfaction to both employees and employer. Basically, remuneration of personnel is giving a fair wage and salary to all the managers and workers of the organization. No matter who is coming to work in an organization, he definitely comes with a perspective of achieving something back or gaining something back from the organization. And the very basic thing is a proper remuneration. The remuneration that must be given to the managers or the workers should be such that it should satisfy both employees as well as employer. A remuneration should not be so less that the employees must feel disheartened or must feel that they are not being paid enough for the task that they are doing or the work that they are performing. And the remuneration must not be so much that the employer may feel that he is paying too much for the task that an employee is performing. So there must be a balance between the satisfaction of the employer as well as employee from the point of view of the remuneration that is being given to him. So a fair and correct wage system or salary system must be developed in an organization so that the basic need of an employee is fulfilled and he is satisfied with the job he is performing. Next is centralization and decentralization. This is the eighth principle of management which was given by Henry Fayol. Here there are two terms, centralization and decentralization, and according to Henry Fayol, there must be a balance between centralization and decentralization. Before I move ahead, let me discuss what is centralization. Centralization is meant a rightful balance between centralization and decentralization. Centralization refers to a reservation of decision-making authority at top level of management, whereas decentralization, on the other hand, means a dispersal of authority from the central top point to middle and especially lower level of management. So in simple words, if we try to understand it, centralization basically means that if all the power and authority to make decisions are in the hands of the seniors on the top management, if they have all the authority of decision making and they do not pass those authorities to the lower level of management, that system or that type of system in an organization is called a decentralized system, is called a centralized system. Whereas on the other hand, in the decentralized system, the top officials disperse their authority or they give on their authority to their lower and middle level management so that they can perform the task as per the need of the organization. So centralization and decentralization is when all the authorities are retained in the hands of the top officials or the top management, it is called a centralized system. And when they are given down to the middle and lower level of management, that is decentralized system. And in every organization, there must be a balance. Any organization which is completely centralized will not be able to function properly, and in same case if it is completely decentralized it will not be able to function properly. So there must be a balance between centralization and decentralization according to the task or the duties. Now the next is scalar chain. It is the chain of superior with the grades of authority ranging from the highest to the lowest. So scalar chain is that there is a chain, a hierarchy which is set in an organization about how an employer will communicate to the upper level of management and how the upper level of management will communicate with the lower level of management. There are certain hierarchies which are set, and every employee is expected to follow that hierarchy and move according to the chain that has been set. If there is a lower level, middle level and upper level, the lower level management must first communicate to the middle level management, and then middle level will communicate to the upper level management. So this hierarchy must be followed. But there is an exception to this which is known as gangplank. Gangplank is a shortcut to scalar chain where without violating it is applicable, where scalar chain is represented by double ladder. So when two employees at the same level of the organization start to communicate directly with a view of uh, sorting out certain important issues, such a form of communication or such a form of passing of information is known as gangplank. Now, the next is order. The next principle which Henry Fayol gave is order. It implies a systematic arrangement of things and personals. Order, in general term, if we understand, is putting everything on its right place. So according to Henry Fayol, all the resources, be it the physical resources, the human resources, they must be placed at the right place so that anyone who needs a particular resource, the resource is available to him at the correct time. Material and physical order, a place for everything and everything in its place. So, material and physical order is when there is a place for everything in an organization and everything of the organization is kept on its correct place. Social and human order means a place for everyone and everyone is at his or her place. So this basically means that there is a place for every employee in an organization and every employee knows where his or her place is. So if the things, the resources in an organization are placed in an orderly manner, it will be very convenient and easier to function and to access those resources when they are required at correct time. Then is equity. Equity basically means a sense of fairness and justice. Loyalty and devotion must be elected from the personnel through a combination of kindness and justice on the part of managers while dealing with their subordinates. So equity basically means that within an organization, everyone must be treated equally. There should be a fair and just way of dealing with an employee. There must not be any sort of partiality between different employees working in different level of organization. Every employee must be treated equally and must be given the right place in the organization. The managers must be kind and they must be just towards their employees. There must not be a sense of cheating or partiality in any which ways. The next is stability of tenure. Stability of tenure in today's scenario, if we see, it is a very, very important principle of management. Stability of tenure in the interest of the efficiency of organization and management, it is imperative that personnel must stay in the organization for as longer a period as possible. This might be called the principle of stability of tenure. So stability of tenure basically means that an organization must make sure that the employees who have joined him must perform and must stay with the organization for a longer period of time. Can be very simply understood that when an employee joins an organization, the organization puts his time, effort, resources to train that employee so that he is efficient enough to perform the task. And as soon as the employee is efficient enough to perform this task, he will start performing the task and he will give his 100%. But if the employee keeps on switching the job, he keeps on shifting from one organization to another, the organization will be wasting their lot of resources and time on training and they will not be getting back enough from those employees. So the organization must make sure that if an employee has joined an organization, they must stay with their organization for a longer period of time so that the relations are developed and there is a sense of responsibility which also develops within the employee. Next is initiative. Initiative in the managerial context refers to the freedom to think out a plan and its execution. Management must provide initiative to employees. So initiative is basically that every employee must take initiative, must come up with his ideas, his thoughts, his creativity, and management should also provide opportunities to employees so that the employees can come up with their ideas and thoughts which will be beneficial to the organization. And the last principle is esprit de corps, which is union is strength. It refers to the strength and power associated with group when the member of the group whole work wholeheartedly in full cooperation with one another. So spirit de corps basically means a spirit of unity among all the employees. All the employees must work thinking that they are working as a team, they are connected to each other as a team, and if they perform together well as a team, it will not be only beneficial from them on an individual ground, but it will be beneficial for the organization as an overall. So spirit de corps or a sense of unity must be developed within the groups or within the members of the organization so that there is a sense of belongingness which develops with this, and every employee feels that he is equally important for the organization. So, as we see, these were the 14 principles which were given by Henry Fayol. And in today's scenario, if all these 14 principles are followed by an organization in the correct possible manner, it will be very beneficial for the organization. If all these 14 principles are used and applied at the right time, at the right place, then it will not only be beneficial for the organization, but the employees will also equally benefit from this. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for this session.